Alright, greetings YouTube. We have here actually a really nice vacuum. This is the Electrolux Guardian, same as, for the most part, same as Radiance Guardian 2000, Renaissance. There's been a couple names. In fact, I think they still sell this one door to door basically. A couple different colors and variants of it, but as I've been accused of being a Miele fanboy, which is kind of true, but I really do love all good products, and this is one of them. So this is a real Aerus Electrolux. This isn't one of the ones made by Eureka. Super high quality, but the owners have severely neglected it. This one's a 1999. So kind of brief overview of what this is this was their attempt to make a canister modern. One of the strangest things is there are your two wheels like you have on most Electroluxes and one caster, and then these are not casters in the rear. They look like they should be, but they're not. They're fixed. So you have this weird sort of long vacuum that's designed to be like a Home Depot wood cart or something like that. It's going to roll over things. You also have the cord with the button, which was a big improvement for Electrolux, but it's off to one side, so very, very particular, very quirky machine. The other thing, when they first launched this machine, HEPA filtration wasn't a thing. Didn't really hop on that bandwagon right away. But then when they redesigned it, about when this machine first came out, they decided they would put a tumor on the machine. So it is a tumor, and it's a HEPA filter. It's a very good, high quality HEPA with charcoal. Still good today, but it sticks out awkwardly in the vacuum. So it has a tendency to, one, for the clips to break off, and two, you know, when it needs to be changed, it's big and it's an assembly. These things are expensive if you get a genuine or a replacement. I've got here a very high quality replacement that meets OEM specifications actually. So this one is good, and you can see the clips are on there. But that's how that's going to sit on there. Is that's going to get clipped on there. Kind of ridiculous. But it is a very good vacuum. The other thing they did was they de-standardized the attachments. You can get an adapter, but it won't convert the electrical part. So these are non-standardized wands. There's a nice onboard tool compartment. There should be a pre-motor filter on here. There wasn't. Again, I got to remove some duct tape marks. And then I'm completely rebuilding the power nozzle from scratch, which I've already taken apart and washed. So you guys are going to get to see kind of the better part of me putting it back together from said bunch of pieces right here. I also forgot my camera tripod today, so we are putting the camera lightly inside my vise on my bench. So we're going to put this bad boy back together, or girl, unisex, or one of the 78 genders, whatever gender you want to call a vacuum cleaner, back together. I'd say it's a boy. It's a pretty masculine machine. It's pretty ugly. First thing I'm going to do is just scrape off the duct tape. I've got a nice thick coat WD-40 on this. It was like baked on here. Unfortunately, it's not going to work with the heat gun. It's probably going to discolor the machine forever, which really saddens me when people do this to a $2,000 vacuum cleaner. And yeah, that's about the asking price for an Electrolux right now. A canister, real Aerus is about $2,000. Now, why I think there are a lot of other vacuums that are better for the price. If you were to come across one of these used, or if you were able to get one of these new for under $1,000, I would say go for it. It's a good deal. It's a good machine. You do have dealer support too. In a lot of big cities, you'll find there'll actually be an area store where you'll be able to get support. And we're not affiliated with Aerus anyway where I work, but we can get a lot of these parts. They make a lot of aftermarket parts for this. It's kind of weird, and there are really high quality aftermarket parts for this. There are some low qualities, but you know, I get to choose what I order, and I order high quality stuff. Whether it's aftermarket or original, I always order the best quality I can for my customers. Not every store will do that, but I personally will. I really want to get this yellow stuff off here. If you can see, it just drives me nuts. The owner probably doesn't care. I could probably just leave this on here, but there's my air compressor. So when I took the duct tape off here yesterday, it was like crackly. It was so dried out. That might be as good as that's going to be. One more good scrub. That's as good, unfortunately, as that's going to be, but we're going to still remove as many paint marks. I pretty much give every machine the same treatment when it comes in this door. In terms of what it's going to get. How I'm going to address it, what how clean it's going to be. This is not one I'm going to take apart completely, break down, and wash. I did blow it out, I did dust it out pretty good. Thing about these is the tolerances are not as fine as, say, a Miele or some of the other cleaners. It's very much more like an AK-47, as you can rather abuse the motor of this machine more. I wouldn't do it, but you can. It survives. It's survived a plethora of aftermarket bags probably that were bad. They make good and bad aftermarket bags for these. You see, it's just really beat up, and it's it's like 18 years old now, so it's seen its use. It's lived about its intended lifespan, but as long as that motor's going, we're going to keep pushing it. These had circuit board problems and hose problems as well that were noted. So this has the newer style hose with the actual physical levers, and if you were looking to get one of these, you'd want one with the levers. If it has the push buttons, I would shy away from that unless you know its history and know it was replaced at some time. A lot of the older versions of these parts get discontinued, and then a newer version of the part comes along. And it's very complicated for a lot of people to track down parts. I have coworkers who just won't do it, too lazy to do it. Yeah, a lot of times I'll call Aerus directly and get a part for a customer. We have a good working relationship with the Aerus dealer. And it's funny going into an Aerus dealer because you do see other vacuums, but they're so against them that there could be anything but an Aerus Electrolux out there. They're like, we don't even want to work on anything else. I can't choose what I work on. I gotta just work on everything. If I chose what I work on, I wouldn't work on Dyson or Shark or any other bagless vacuum, but that's part of the market and part of the job. Let's see how clean I was able to get this bad boy. Kind of want to just take a garden hose to this one. It's so bad. So this vacuum looks pretty simple, but actually there's 2 circuit boards inside it. Kind of a thing about it. It's actually, in terms of electronics going bad, it has them. But most Aerus parts are pretty reasonably priced for what this is. You know, when we price them out with compared to Kirby or Dyson or something, they tend to be a little bit less sometimes even. Nice thing about an Aerus. Alright. That is as good as that one's going to be. We'll get some polish on that later. The other thing I'm religious about is cleaning these gaskets, no matter what generation of Electrolux. They've got kind of this double gasket. They've got this going into the bag, and then the bag itself has a gasket. I always clean that out real well. Make sure it's... and these vacuums have a bag off switch. There's no bag in there. It's not turning on. I really think that's one of the best things a vacuum company could do. I wish Miele and some other companies would do that rather than just a mechanism that physically stops it. They should just have an off switch. I've never had to replace one of those off switches in an Aerus. They've used a pretty reliable switch. This is a model C134A. That's what it says on the inside here. Right here we have the model number printed right there. And we have it right here as well. Alright, got that. Let's see if I can find a bag for this thing. I'll have to go up front and grab bags. We'll set this aside for now. On to the deed of the day, which is the power head. One of the common fixes, things that breaks. The other thing is this is old enough, doesn't have ball bearings. Okay. Well, now I'm done being interrupted by a customer. So I've lubricated these bearings. They're not ball bearings, they're slave bearings. They require lubrication. Goes back to some of the reasons I tell customers to bring their vacuum in pretty often. So we're going to pull this guy out of the box. Get our mess of screws here. And the piece that's easily lost is this little silicone strip. And it sits right there, and it takes care of motor vibration. Just a little something that I've seen before get easily missed by technicians. And oh, so with this neck comes the light bulb holder. Kind of a different thing. All right. So again, in this case, I am using an aftermarket neck. And I believe that this particular one is high quality, made by a company called Perfect, who actually makes, I hate to call them knockoff, they make Electrolux vacuums, is the best way I can put it, that are not made by Aerus. So again, this is a high quality replacement part. I would not get, there's a couple others I would not get. There we go. So the one thing we'll be reusing is this little circuit breaker. This is one of the few parts I do see break. People push these too often, they break them off. Just something to look for. That's gonna wiggle loose. That's better. Alright. Put the motor in its place. Alright. Now this motor has a little bit of motion here. We're talking maybe a millimeter or two. They can move forward or back on these mounts. And that's all your belt tensioning adjustment that you have with this machine. So I think a lot of step I see skipped on these is people don't attempt to tension the belt or dress the belt at all. Really still pretty loose. We're just putting those on there. Right. So the next thing is these are not sealed ball bearings. These are open and gritty. So when I wash the brush roller, I pull these off beforehand. Actually clean some of the bearing. So the grease is old enough in these that the grease is like dissolved to the viscosity of like a thick differential oil. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to do the big no-no and mix some product together. I'm just putting this in to clean them. This is actually why I'm putting drops of oil. I'm using compressed air to blow that oil then out of the bearings. It's all blown into my hand, but it is out. So those are not much cleaner and much smoother now. Now I'll repack them with grease. I don't believe I have a grease gun at the store. Stand corrected. Stand corrected. See if there's any grease left in here. There is grease in here. Oh. The grease has been... I've got a broken grease gun at the store. It's a shame. Wonder if I can just make it work for old time's sake. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we are cooking with gas. I like using the grease gun because it will inject in there. They're not really seals, they're kind of open. Like I said, it's an open system. Alright. Now the bearings have been re-greased with the proper viscosity and all that. That's better. Beautiful. So now we have these two little screws that go on here. Alright, now that I've had a visit from the boss man, given myself some more work to do. Other than this vacuum, we got some more shit over there and all around to fix. More videos for you guys. So as I was saying, two little screws here that go onto this brush roller. So these guys just kind of, they don't have to be super tight, they just go on there and they hold the brush roller in place, kind of keep it from vibrating loose. So I don't want you guys to start thinking I'm endorsing Dial soap, but we are going to use some Dial soap as belt dressing in this case. This is going to quiet the vacuum up a little bit and just make everything go a little bit smoother on the belt. I do this with most things that have serpentine belts of some sort. Alright, set the tension on the motor. Those should be pretty snug. Don't want that motor going anywhere. Got tension. Excellent. You don't want to make this too tight. If you've haven't ever sent a chain or a timing belt or something like that, they don't need to be tight, super tight. The gears just need to grab them. In fact, a little bit on the looser side usually means it's going to work a little bit more efficiently. So the light lens is going to go in place. Make sure our wires are not snatched on anything. Then all of our wires are going to go across and get tucked in here. New light bulb holder. My light's pretty bad in this store, so you'll have to excuse me. It's kind of hard for me to see where this is going. I'm casting a shadow onto the black housing. There we go. So all that gets tucked in there. Gosh, that light bulb isn't good. Find a light bulb. Alright, we're back. It's a 15-watt light bulb. I don't use the 25-watt light bulbs, I always use a 15. Sometimes the 25-watt light bulbs melt things up. These light bulbs are pretty cheaply made. You can actually find these in an LED if you search eBay, if you want to get fancy with it. They're called a bayonet light bulb. They're 110 volts. You know what? Looks like that moved around in shipping. Here I am telling you how high quality these replacement parts are, and I can't get the light bulb in. Hardest part about doing your work is holding your work, is what my dad always says. Alright. So, I got a lens somewhere. So this is the lens that goes on. It just sits right there. Looks like it broke off on one side where this goes. Somebody hit it. As you can see, it's had a pretty rough life. Really rough. Get all that drama away. Alright. Not digging that that's loose like that. So the question is, when you see something like this, do I put the repair on hold for another week and a half, 2 weeks while I order a new one of these plastic covers? that the customer probably doesn't care about. So in this case, what will be done is, considering this is nothing structural, I might put just a dab of silicone on there, and I'll use silicone because it can be removed easily. If somebody needs to get in here, it won't ruin anything, and it will hold this in place with the vibration. I will offer to order the right piece for the customer, but the repair bill on this is pretty high. They might not want this done. They might end up wanting it done. In that case, I'll be able to remove this. So we're going to do kind of a rarity thing, is I'm going to just put a little glue on something. You won't see me do this often, if ever. This is got one. Alright, well, that will have to do until the customer decides what they want to do with that. Myself. You know, if it wasn't a light lens, I would definitely insist, but that's all that piece does. Put the light on the front of the vacuum, which they may have forgotten about it even having light at this point. Who knows how long that bulb was burned. Gonna get all this in the right. I had this right the first time when I noticed that piece was broken. Alright. Electrolux screws in. Now, something to note, to whatever vacuum shop this was in before, maybe this was on the... Oh, this may have been on my bench. Maybe I got caught in it. That's not to this. All the screws on this power head, there'll be 5 of them like this. Depending on the power head, some of them will have a 6th screw. It's painted black. That goes in the corner over here. The corner of the L. Well, that customer was cheap. Important part of the repair is you eat a chocolate chip cookie before you put the screws in. Also, when you drink some coffee, run a little bit low on coffee. All right. Now, at this point, it's kind of interesting to note that Aerus owns TriStar now. And you can buy a TriStar nozzle that's exactly the same nozzle, except it doesn't have this nice spring-loaded like height adjustment, which is what this does. Basically allows the power head to be a height adjustment. And it has a heavy cast metal top for really no apparent reason. I did a video how to change a cord on one of those, but not how to service the power head. There we go. That is the neck. Stiff it first. take some of my magical solution here and we're going to get rid of some of these paint marks. It's important to note, be careful around these logos. They will come off easy. And these are kind of a rough plastic, so you can see my Scotch-Brite is okay to use on this. Has so many nicks. This is such a rough life. This poor vacuum. This vacuum needs to go to a vacuum cleaner collector and just like live out the rest of its life being babied and used. It should not go back to its prospective owner. Just a editorial note there. Before that dissolves. Well, that's cleaner. That's still pretty rough. We'll give it another go. I wonder they broke the neck on this thing. Little secret, one of the power nozzles that I serviced was my own. It had some paint marks on it, but not like this. Alright. Some vacuum polish. Alright. So power head's here. We're going to test it. Ooh. Woohoo! One of my coworkers calls this a suicide cord. I've always just called it a cheater. Alright. That's a good start. Set that aside for a minute. Let's get to the main body of the canister. Alright, Alright, onto the main body. So, if this had its cover here, it would actually divert the air to come out right here through the tool lid. And then you'd have said microfilter here with this. But since the customer is using a Hepa, they don't use this. Nothing goes in there, which causes the tool lid to give this odd jitter, which I'm not a huge fan of. But what else can I do? I guess I could put some tape or something in there if I really cared about that, but not my vacuum. So cool thing, telescoping crevice tool. Totally unnecessary. There's totally room in here. The motor does not go all the way up here. The motor sits like in this section, so there would have been room for them to make this tool compartment fit a regular size crevice tool, but being Electrolux. The other thing that they've done in the past is that these were usually like one tool. On this model they're not, but they kept the weird folding design and that angles and moves. Kind of strange quirk of the machine. Now, note that I washed these tools and I did I usually spray some enzyme stuff on the bristles so they don't get like a funk. Kind of helps the machine from smelling, because usually the dust brush smells pretty bad. So we are going to go back to installing that bag. So, if you're unfamiliar with an R bag, it looks just like a C bag. In fact, most people confuse them for a C bag. I have seen this before. It does not work. They are a different shape on purpose. So, again, R for Renaissance. I always kind of fluff paper bags. Probably don't need to. I always break this part by hand. I've been doing that since I was a kid. My parents had a Super J when I was growing up. Alright, let's install the tumor. It is a tumor. Install the tumor and try not to break it when we're doing it. I'm not like. There we go. Tumor is installed. We are now at Hepa vacuum. And I'm gonna go grab the particle meter here in a minute. I'll let you guys see what its emissions are, because I haven't measured one of these in a while. Motor sounds old, but it is strong. Alright. That's cleaning well. So, I'm gonna see what's in the air. This store, it's pretty high. Something I noticed. So we're actually going to measure what the microfilter would do by itself, just out of curiosity. Maintain. That's what the microfilter does. Now we're going to switch up. Ooh, I hope I didn't just break the particle counter. Those are ungodly expensive. Hepa filter on this particular vacuum is not super effective. And there's a couple of reasons. It's not actually moving all the air into this. There is air sneaking out the cord reel and all sorts of other parts of the machine. If I turn this on one more time. So that's the level of filtration you can expect. Now some of you are saying, oh, you don't have a genuine Aerus Electrolux filter. I guarantee you I've measured it before with these. It's just not great. At this point, this machine is 18 years old. You can't expect it to have modern standards. So give it a little bit of a rest. I have an EnviroCare, one of these on the way as well, that I think is lesser quality, but when that gets here, if it gets here and this machine's still here, I will test it on the particle counter. Alright. The last step is I'm going to clean up the plastic wands because they look like shit. They just look like shit. And I'm not a huge fan of these wands. I think that they've gone with just a industry standard 1.5" or 35mm telescoping wand, or even separate pieces. It would have been better. Which is really a shame because Electrolux usually had really good wands. It's something. They made some really lightweight aluminum wands they sold for years that were lighter than these even. That I actually gave to my parents for them to use on their central vac because they were so lightweight. Alright, we got this. Look at this gouge. Like, who does that? This customer, that's who. The only ones we have to polish as well. The other thing that happens with these is you can see that this one's squared off. Now this customer hasn't done it too bad, but you see this rounded. These eventually will get so rounded that they don't lock in right. So I'm just going to test it one more time. That is beautiful. Alright. Well, as always, please like, subscribe, and comment below.